Bienvenido a Mmmambo Podcast. Si te gusta la vaina, suscríbete a la vaina, dale like a la vaina y comparte la vaina. Mambo.
Shawty working late nights, night shifts. Girl, I got duration to make you relax.
Producer, musician, singer, composer, and everything under the sun. It's so inspirational to hear all of the things that you do, and you do it so well.
Oh, thank you. It means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
Now this vibe you got going on with the lights, I don't know how you did it, but it looks cool.
But yeah, actually, I have the two lights that I have down in my studio. They're both electronically controlled, so I can control them through my phone, and I can change the color and everything. So, yeah, set it nice and warm.
Nice. The beauty of technology is just amazing. In fact, today I just discovered that with Logic, you can pretty much set it up with your cell phone as a remote. So via iPhone, have your remote start instead of having to walk to the station, then back to the mic. You can stay right in front of the mic and just press record.
Oh, that's nice. That's real nice.
Yeah, technology is a beautiful thing. Now, on the subject of technology, so the pieces of equipment that you use for your work, if you'd like to go down the list.
All right, so for my laptop, I just have I think this Dell Inspiron HD laptop. You know, nothing too crazy. I don't have a crazy processor or anything. You know, just the basis of what I need. I got two KRK monitors. I think they're 5 inches, something like that. And I love these a lot. The sound on them is really good. Pretty balanced, flat mix. It is a little bit of a curve on the low end and the high end, but they're really good for what I do. The interface that I have is a Sterling Harmony. I love this thing so much. It's very versatile. Has direct input and all of that. Has input knobs, but I don't really need those input knobs because I actually have this Mackie mixer that I used to do a lot of my stuff on. Record my bass through, record my microphone, all of that good stuff. It has a lot of good settings. Control the low end, the mids, and everything. All the bells and whistles that I need. For my keyboard, I have a Minilab MK2. That's what I mainly use to do my drum patterns and everything like that. And then my piano is just a regular Yamaha. It's a 88 full. And then my microphone is another Sterling mic. I like Sterling technology a lot. It's really reliable, durable, everything that you need. And yeah, that's about it. Everything else is pretty much just little things I bought here and there. So
Cool. Well, the beauty is that from the experience that I had visiting you, that I saw how you work around your equipment, is that you know your equipment so well that your workflow tends to be power on, maybe tweak a few things as you see fit, and just ready to go on the fly.
yeah, absolutely. The beauty about that is that having a very streamlined, amount of equipment, nothing too crazy, nothing over the top, is that I can really just plug and play. You know, if I'm playing my bass, I could just plug that into the mixer, power it on, put in my stuff. And even with my own DAW, I have a bunch of presets and stuff that I like to use that if I want to tweak it here and there, I'll tweak it along the way. But everything is plug and play for me so that I can get more time to really put my ideas out, if anything.
Nice. Have you ever experimented with doing a recording with dropping a lot of the highs and kind of see what type of sound, or getting like crunchy sounds and stuff like that?
Yeah, the thing I like to do with that is experimenting is always important to just finding what sounds you want to use and finding what you're gonna go into the project with. So, sometimes with the bass, I'll like put amps on it and stuff like that. And if I don't like it, I'll just stick to my regular setting. If I find a particular, plugin or something like that that I like to use, I'll just add that onto my preset. Sometimes I like to play around with distortion. A lot of people are scared of playing with distortion, and a little bit of good harmonic distortion with anything can go pretty well. Tape distortion is really good too, to put it into vocals every once in a while, especially if you're doing background vocals. It helps. And yeah, just experimenting is a really important process, part of the process. So.
Oh, so you're not afraid to sometimes go into the red when working with
No,
sound.
absolutely not. That's as a matter of fact, I found myself started from scratch every once in a while, and then I'll just go ahead and fly off with it. So
So that's cool because I was actually watching what is it mass oh can't forget what the I think it's mass flow something like that when they say when they use believe it's beat roulette or sample roulette and Easy Mo P was making a beat with a record that he wasn't afraid to go into the red. And turns out he actually does that often. So then in that case, as long as it sounds clean, it kind of gives that extra punchy sound to it.
yeah, I feel you. Honestly, experimenting with the records and everything like that. I like looking at the history of crate digging and stuff like that. Because a lot of the producers that went crate digging back in the day, they weren't afraid to experiment at all with records that they got. They were playing around with the distortion. They would play around with EQ in certain parts of the track, extrapolating vocals and stuff like that. So it's funny that you mentioned that because actually I think it was a crate thing at the crate digging episode that I saw with Ninth Wonder, something like that.
Hmm.
And that was very interesting to watch because his whole process from start to beginning is just amazing. It's crazy, man.
Wow, Ninth Wonder. Yeah, definitely a world of it in its own. Just to be a fly on the wall watching him work in the studio.
Yeah. But producers like him, I find something interesting about watching other producers do their work is that not only can you integrate certain things that they do into your workflow, but just watching like all of their ideas flow out and just watching them, put things together that you didn't even know were gonna come together. It's like wow, it's crazy to watch.
Now, on the same words of bringing things together, are you putting anything together soon, or do you plan on putting something together, a project that you hold dearly, or a single, anything in that regard?
As a matter of fact, yes, I am. Right now, I've been working on a couple of things, but the main project I want to work on is this project called "I Love You, Diciembre."
I love you, Diciembre.
And it's gonna be a good amount of reggaeton, but I'm gonna try experimenting a little bit here and there, see what I can do to push the boundaries. But yeah, I'm really excited to drop that. It's dropping sometime after my birthday, December 9th.
Ya no te conozco, ahora le conoces, dimos uso mejor. Borré todas las fotos, pero yo sigo llorando porque no me olvidé los.
And yeah, one of my favorite singles on there that I've been working on for a little bit is called Recuerdos. It's just really talking about some experiences I've been going through in my past relationships about, being with someone and then essentially trying to forget the memories that you have with them. So yeah, I'm very excited to drop that project.
Cool. Well, wish you all the best of luck on that project. I hope people go crazy downloading it and playing it on Spotify. Because let me tell you, when I listen to your stuff, it is so much fun. Sometimes I try to imagine myself, what was he thinking while he was in his studio and putting this stuff together? Just to be the fly on the wall and kind of just get into your vibe as he's doing it. It's really cool. So I stop and listen as if, like if I was a beginner, I really I don't think about what my experiences are when I'm listening to someone else's greatness, which I consider every piece of music that you put together is a bit of greatness that you've let out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. I feel the same way. Like every project that I go into, not just making beats, but making songs, trying to play around with my instruments. Every project that I go into, I try to not forget everything I learned, but forget essentially, I don't know how to put it. It's like forgetting the fact that you've gotten so good at your craft that you think that you're a master. It's an important, crucial part to just make yourself a beginner again every time you go into a project, every time you're working on something, because having the creativity of a beginner is just very important. It's almost like being a newborn baby, not knowing the world that you're stepping into and just finding your way in the world, finding that one path that you want to follow through with.
Finding that groove like the first time you discover you got 5 fingers. I like that.
Man, yeah, that's exactly how I would put it.
Like, ooh, this is nice.
I know, right? It's like, oh man, I'm about to play with this one for a while.
Now, for the sake of contrast of the conversation, for those who are listening, the list of instruments that you play.
All right, so we got piano. I want to say, disclaimer, I'm not a master at any of these instruments by any means, and I'm always trying to learn a new level of what I'm doing. But piano, tambora, bajo, guira, and then a couple instruments here and there. The saxophone, especially one of my favorite instruments of all time. And yeah, everything I do in the studio. I think one of the most important instruments that anyone can have out there is your voice. So I would say the vocals as well.
Definitely. Yes, indeed. In fact, today I was watching someone, again on Logic, talk about how if you can't play the piano, that there's an option, which I know it's not exclusively just for Logic. I know there's other apps and whatnot. You use your voice to sing out the melody and then transition it to another instrument just so you don't lose that inspiration and get that sound. So, technology is doing a whole lot to assist in that. It shouldn't always be to the extreme of that's your go-to for every time, but for the sake of creativity and not losing that thought, it's really cool to have that there.
As a matter of fact, while we're on that topic, having tools like that is amazing, right? Where you can have this multitude of abilities to really put your ideas out there, really put your ideas in solid stone. And I think the important part about all of that is that remember it's a tool. Don't just rely on it. Don't make it your crutch. It's beautiful to hear that something like that exists, because I know a lot of people personally who don't really know how to play an instrument, anything like that. So having that type of tool to their advantage would be pretty cool. But always remember, like, it's a tool and everything like that. You're only as good as what you can do with that tool. So.
Now I'm gonna ask you a question that I think I'm gonna keep this question around for a while, just to see what are the different answers that I get. If there was a red button to enhance your music every time you make a song, would you use it every time?
No, there's no way. Nope. And I'll tell you why. With using that red button, right? It's almost like taking away a certain human factor of it, the work and the time that it takes to not even perfect a song, but just get it to where you want it to be. For me personally, one of my big things about mixing is that to a certain degree, I can be hard on myself with the way that I really push getting vocals down and EQing it to like the perfect point where I can get every single nuance and everything like that. But I wouldn't give up a single amount of that process, because it's like that makes you who you are, honestly, in your production at least. Maybe not you as your personality, but that's actually putting like a stamp of personality on it. So I wouldn't use that button every time. There's no way. Maybe once in a while, when I'm feeling a little tired and I can't, But other than that, I would never want to, neutralize that personal aspect of mixing.
Now, my next question is, if there was an instrument that you would have to choose with just yourself no vocals, no accompaniment, no door, just you, the instrument, a crowd, and you need to entertain them for 45 minutes. Which instrument would you use?
This is a this is a hard one. This is a very difficult one. I would say the bass. I would say the bass, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I'm very familiar with the bass. There are plenty of songs, plenty of bass lines that people know. And to entertain a crowd for 40 minutes with the bass, I'm sure it's not as hard as people think. I would say the piano because there's so many things you can do with the piano. Um, I feel like limiting yourself and the ability of just one instrument and starting from scratch can actually open up a world of creativity. But if I had to pick one instrument personally, I think it would be the tambora. And honestly, I picked the tambora because there's something about rhythm instruments that just get people moving, that get people dancing, even without vocals, without, all these other different instruments that you can add on the trunk like that. There's something about the rhythm, about the groove of the rhythm that gets people moving. So 40 minutes, I could get people dancing for 40 minutes forever with that thing, you know?
Cool. That's your unique personal answer. I wouldn't even try to rebuttal because the beauty of that question is it's personalized to everyone who gives that answer. Like,
Yeah.
my daughter even once told me, "Can you ask me that question? I want to answer."
Yeah.
And she kind of came with the same conclusion of, wow, there's this instrument, there's that instrument, but then there's always that one instrument that feels like home. And that's
Absolutely.
personal to the musician.
And and in addition to that, by the way, with the tambora, it's a two-sided drum. So a lot of people play with the palo and everything like that. But I'm pretty sure from the experiences that you've had listening to me with the tambora, you can do a lot with the tambora. I learned how to play salsa on one side of the drum. I learned how to do a little bit of basic merengue with the conga pattern. Uh, I've learned to do a little bit of palo. There's a lot of things you could do with a drum. People don't understand that.
Definite. The element of less judgment and getting people to listen, let go, and enjoy, just move their body. It becomes a journey. That's why I chose 45 minutes, because you think about it, 5 minutes, just about any musician, even if they're beginners, they can play the same thing over and over and just fill in those 45 minutes and make different renditions. Sorry, of 5 minutes. But when it's 45 minutes, you can't just keep changing and repeating. It comes to a point that you start doing things that you'll wind up discovering yourself. So that's really the beauty of that question. You do let the crowd feel what you feel. I don't think 5 minutes is enough to make the crowd feel what you feel.
That's a fact. I agree with that. The thing about time, now that we're talking about 45 minutes, time can really make you discover yourself within it. If you spend at least 10 minutes within a room, the majority of the time you're gonna end up going down a chain of thoughts and chain of, reactions to those thoughts that you didn't even know you would ever go through, talking with somebody else in a conversation. So I think the important thing about time is that it really gives the brain an amount of time to work. And essentially it's a construct where most situations you just can't find people. So you're finding, things to try and throw out at them. You're finding grooves and different patterns eventually that you didn't even know you were going to do beforehand. So, yeah.
Amen. Now, is there anything that you would like to put out there into the ether, relative to your project, yourself personally? It could be anything within the creative realm or, relative to music. What would you throw out into the ether to create some type of change when it bounces back?
I got to think about this one. This is hard. I'd say that you said it has to be within the context of music. So I would say that I feel like a lot of artists put push too hard to make music their personality rather than put their personality into the music. And the thing about that is essentially if you're trying to push music as your personality, right, you're gonna end up getting lost in it because there are so many different ways of expressing yourself. There are so many different ways of changing who you are throughout the music. I mean, there are so many different genres of music alone. So let's start with that. I mean, a lot of people think jazz is a more somber, sad, genre, things of that sort, but they don't even know the different variations of jazz. I mean, you got bebop, you got big band jazz, it's very upbeat and up tempo usually. You have cool jazz, which is a lot more, mellow, somber. I'd say that putting your personality to the music is gonna be a lot more worth it in return because people are gonna listen to it and be like, "Oh, yo, you know what? I think Manny Montero really put his soul into it." And they're gonna relate to that, even if it's just a life experience that you're singing about or something of that sort. People are gonna listen to that and be like, "Oh, yo, this is dope. He has his own sound. He has his own music. He's putting his lyrics, his heart into it." One thing that I always strive to do with my music personally is, try and tell a story. If you tell a good story, nobody's gonna stop listening to it. I have a track called "Save Me" that I was pushing for a little bit, and eventually kind of realized that it's gonna speak for itself. People are gonna listen to it. People are gonna just rock out with it if they want to. Um, a lot of kids from my school, they were like, "Yo, your music is crazy. Your music is nice, but this song saved me. Like this is really hard for. I could feel this. It's like more of an R&B track, like trap soul." And I think what I like about that one is I think why a lot of people gravitate toward it is not just the beat itself, not just the way it's mixed itself, but what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, don't break my heart because if you break my heart, like there's not gonna be anybody who's gonna save me for real. So I'm gonna have to save myself, essentially. And yes, so that's just an example of where you put your personality in your music, you put your experiences into the music. It's gonna be a lot more fruitful than trying to make, music your personality.
Mm, that's a big deal because yeah, that into the ether and returning, it's always going to come back with the same outcome. It's only going to go back up because people want to be lifted. In the end, most of us, honestly, we're at the point where we experience most of the things in life through music. Another portion is social media and, of course, what we decide to entertain ourselves with, whether it's at the movie theater or in watching movies and TV series at home. But the majority of the time, that the stuff that we have no choice but to really listen, because it has nothing to do with our eyes, even if we're so-called multitasking, our ears are absorbing each and every message. So when there's a message that's touching the soul, even if we're not consciously doing it, subconsciously we're accepting what the message is. So that's what's really important, to avidly listen to music that's soulful, something that's spiritual, something that's gonna feed us in the end. Like a good beat is amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'm a big believer that there's certain songs that if you were to remove the lyrics, sooner or later the people who are listening to the music, they can receive the message still.
Yeah, I think with that, you're absolutely right. A lot of instrumental music, people fall in love with it because it's not just, the words, anything that you put on it, but the soul behind the music. Once again, this is going back to, put your personality, put yourself into the music because people are gonna love that. People are gonna come back to it. It's gonna be timeless. Like one track that I love a lot that some people are like, "Oh, it's annoying, this is not," is "I Wanna Rock With You" by Michael Jackson. And I love that song so much, not because of his vocals, nothing like that, but the soul, the groove and the bass, the groove and the instruments, every single little nuance, the flute that comes in, is just beautiful. Even down to the drum line. It's man, it's a very soulful track that was definitely done with a lot of care and time. So people are always gonna feed off of the vibe that you put behind the music, not even just the lyrics, not even just the vocals that you put on it, but the vibe of the music. The soul is something that you can't capture in words. So
Yeah, it'll be a message open for interpretation, kind of like the Bible. you'll have 1,000 people who listen to it, and 1,000 people who have a different feeling. One of them is
Right.
gonna cry immediately. The other person is gonna cry at the end of the song. Some people will never cry, but they feel the deep emotion. Others might keep searching for that emotion. Why is it everybody else is crying and I'm not? And they can
Yeah,
relate to
absolutely.
that feeling. It's beautiful. I like that you chose that song because the synthesizer and the flute, and then when it transposes, sorry, not transpose, modulates. Oh my gosh, it just takes it to another level, and the emotions behind it. You remove the lyrics, and oof, the emotions just keep getting deep, and like even talking about it, I'm getting goosebumps.
I know, right? Like, man, when I was a little kid, I used to think that Michael Jackson was everything. You know, he was the face of the music and everything like that. But as I got older, as I started getting into production, I was like, man, the stuff that they put into this music, the time that they took to get every single part of the song right, like it's just perfect. Another one that I like a lot is Billie Jean. It's a simple song, more or less, you would think, right? But when you go into how much time and detail was put into the mix of that song alone, it was just, oh my gosh. Oh man,
Yeah. Oof.
I could talk about Michael Jackson music forever.
That's great. Although we are here to talk more about your music, but it's nice that you keep paying attention to the stuff that's valuable out there as well. That keeps us humble.
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest way to focus on yourself and nurture your own talents and nurture your own spirit is listen to, different spirits, listen to the different souls that are out there doing their thing, and then think about, all right, how am I going to integrate this knowledge into what I do?
Now with the aspect of mixing, um, you mentioned the Mackie that you used the preamp on the faders, and has it changed kind of like how you think when you're mixing a record, how your pregame starts to set in a little differently, or is it something of you just kind of feel what happens as you start the song?
I feel like honestly, to a certain degree, it does change the way I go into a song thinking about it. It kind of makes me, put myself into a space where I'm more focused on just getting my idea into it. But from time to time, I can find myself still just putting things together one piece at a time. Because I will say that although presets do help a lot, and although presets do become a great tool, the tweaking that you do along the way definitely puts you back and just puts you back into the seat saying, all right, now slow down. Even though you're laying down these vocals, even though you're focusing on the vocal takes, you got to take time to mix it and you got to take time to really make sure that your craft is coming out there. So I would say it's kind of like being in the driver's seat and already having a car started, already having a car off park. It's kind of like, all right, wait, I still got to focus on the road that I got to take to get where I got to get. So,
Hmm. Okay, well that's good. That's a lot of focus, and at the same time just accepting that the journey is just getting started, but I know where I'm going. I like that.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a great analogy.
Absolutely. It's
As
good
a
to already have the snacks ready before you go driving.
that too, yeah, that's right. Right, because you can't be mixing music with on an empty stomach.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Now, any final thoughts to anyone who's either aspiring to be a producer or just learning how to record so they can lay down their own music?
I'd say the most important afterthought that I would say is don't let don't let anything stop you. Honestly, nowadays there are so many tools, so many resources that you got. I'd say just be a good student. The best way to be a good student is realize the tools that you have, realize the tools that you can receive, and use them wisely. Because music is within itself another tool of expressing yourself and really putting your emotions out there. So also be responsible with those tools. A lot of people don't realize how much power you have in music. So just Don't let anything stop you. Realize the tools that you got and realize the responsibility that you got with those tools.
Amazing. Couldn't have put that better myself. I'm proud of you. I'm happy with everything that you're doing. I can't wait to see what else you're doing. I would just like to be a fly on the wall, or just take the back seat and just watch wherever you're going as you navigate. As I could see where you started, but everything of where you're going, I know that's up to you, and you're doing a great job in guiding yourself to accept what's flowing through you to take you through that journey. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
God bless, sobrino. Take care.
All right.
Thank you for coming on my podcast.
Bendiciones, tío.
Dios te bendiga.
Get it, yeah, yo. Shawty fine, oh, I hope she know her worth, yeah. She know her worth, she know. I know she wanna get her bag, oh, I love a girl who work, yeah. And I can tell you a good girl by the way you walk, shawty. But I won't know cause you never really talk to me. But I'ma be there for you when you're going through the same things I go through. Just tell me that you rock with me, and I can rock with you. Feel like when you not with me, I'll be losing what I got with you. And if you got a man, just say that. If you got another plan, just say that. I ain't tripping on shit, I be laid back. But I can't lie, girl, I still got it bad for you. Girl, I got it bad for you. I want you to know I still got it bad for you.
Mmmambo Podcast. Si te gusta la vaina, suscríbete a la vaina, dale like a la vaina y comparte la vaina. Mmmambo.